You're watching News Today live on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 125 and around the world on myjoyonline.com. Hello and welcome. I am Emefa Akusia Adetina. This afternoon, National Democratic Congress under fire for what many describe as endorsements of vote buying after the party cleared Baba Jamal to contest the Yawasu East by-election. We'll take you live to the Electoral Commission for the IPAC meeting ahead of the Yawasu East by-election. Also, President Mahama expresses concern over the poor handling of Ghana's cocoa and oil sectors in the past, stating that the country failed to raise sustainable funding for cocoa and cocoa board's capacity to syndicate effectively.
We dissipated significant buffers and stabilizers that would have shielded our citizens from the painful domestic debt haircuts that they ultimately had to endure.
Meanwhile, Ghana Cocoa Boards reported to members of the Licensed Cocoa Buyers Association nearly 10 billion cedis for the current cocoa season. We have details as an emergency cabinet meeting is set for today to deliberate on challenges facing the cocoa sector. Also in this bulletin, JoyNews is set to host a national dialogue on illegal mining after the tax for Galamsey expose.
Out for my reclamation. To say one line for most of my problems. I'm baby, I'm free grateful for why.
The rising number of coup d'etats in Africa dominates discussions as ministers responsible for foreign affairs converge for the Executive Council meeting of the African Union.
The evolving geopolitical landscape in which multilateralism and global cooperation are being eroded is also adversely affecting peace and security in our continent.
JoyNews, independent, fearless, credible. Please stay for details. We appreciate your company this afternoon. First in the news, Ghana's cocoa value chain is under pressure as the Ghana Cocoa Board has reported to members of Licensed Cocoa Buyers Association nearly 10 billion cedis for the current cocoa season. The association warns that the mountain arrears are placing enormous pressure on farmers, purchasing clerks and banks, threatening the stability of one of Ghana's most critical economic sectors. Some farmers say they are considering selling their farms or smuggling cocoa beans across borders in search of immediate cash. Speaking at the inauguration of the Presidential Advisory Group on the Economy today, President Mahama bemoaned the poor handling of Ghana's cocoa and oil sectors in the past, admitting the country failed to strengthen cocoa board's capacity to syndicate effectively. He said the issues being raised are not about assigning blame, but drawing lessons and taking responsibility. He charged the advisory group to help correct the mistakes of the past and chart a more sustainable economic path forward.
We are all qualified and experienced enough to know that we face a tough road ahead, regardless of the progress we may have chalked up to date. As a nation, we find ourselves again in debt distress, after having previously declared IPAC and solemnly assuring ourselves that we will never return to such a position. That experience should have permanently altered our fiscal culture. Unfortunately, instead, we dissipated significant buffers and stabilizers that would have shielded our citizens from the painful domestic debt haircuts that they ultimately had to endure. We must confront this reality honestly. After investing in 3 oil fields and positioning ourselves as an emerging petroleum economy, we allowed policy inconsistency and investor uncertainty to drive existing and potential investors to competing jurisdictions. The result has been a declining trajectory of crude oil output at a time when we should have been consolidating gains and building resilience for the energy transition. Our handling of state-owned enterprises has also been uneven and at times haphazard. Weak governance frameworks, political interference, and inadequate financial discipline undermined institutions that were once engines of stability and credibility. We failed to raise sustainable funding for cocoa and the Cocoa Board's capacity to syndicate effectively, something it had done successfully since the early 1990s, and this was severely impaired. These are not points of blame, they are lessons in responsibility. Ghana's economic history teaches us humility. We have deepened our capital markets, expanded the range of domestic bond instruments, yet we have also experienced painful setbacks, including debt distress and decline in investor confidence. Our task now is correction without amnesia, learning from both our success and our failures. I pause here because I want you to be part of the solution and ultimately part of the success story we must now write. Your counsel must help us rebuild credibility, restore fiscal discipline, attract investment, re-anchor expectations, and re-establish Ghana as a serious, predictable, and competitive economy.
Our Presidential Affairs correspondent, Maxwell Agbagba, joins us with more on this. Now, Maxwell, before we get to cocoa, who are the members of the Presidential Advisory Group on the economy? Unmute, Maxwell, if you can hear me.
Well, MFA, there are 12 of them. The president, yes, MFA, so there are 12 members of the committee. The president is the chairman of the committee, so in all we have 13 members of the Presidential Advisory Group on the economy. Notable amongst them, we have former finance minister and Bank of Ghana, former Bank of Ghana governor, Dr. Kwabena Dufo. He's a member, Sir Sam Jonah, who's an industrialist and a private sector leader, is also a member of the group. We also have Ms. Abena Amwa, who's the chief executive officer of the Ghana Stock Exchange. She is also a member. Dr. Harry Kofi Wampa, former governor of the Bank of Ghana, is also a member of the advisory group. Togbe Afede is also a member. So quite notable and prominent business leaders are members of this presidential advisory group on the economy.
Who is the vice president, who is a member of the advisory group, has also been speaking. What did she say?
Well, she tasked the members of the committee to ensure that the definition of the economy goes beyond the abstract. She says members of the group should work to ensure that the economy means price stability for the trader out there, that it means the ability of the teacher out there to buy products from the market at affordable prices. Basically saying that the citizens should be able to relate more to the issues about the economy, so it doesn't remain just an abstract concept.
This advisory group comprises professionals of different backgrounds, perspectives, and experience across diverse disciplines. As a lifelong teacher myself, I would like to respectfully leave my esteemed colleagues and myself with our first piece of homework. That is, for us to constantly reflect on what the term the economy should mean to our fellow citizens. Beyond an abstract concept, it should mean many things, including the following: stability for the teacher in the classroom and the nurse on night duty, fair prices and reliable markets for the farmer, predictable costs and access to credit to the trader and small business owner, stable incomes, and affordable housing and transport for the worker, opportunities and skills for the young person, especially the women, security for the laborer, and decent care for the elderly.
So, Maxwell, an emergency cabinet meeting is scheduled for today on issues affecting the cocoa sector. What do we know?
Well, as it stands now, some of the cabinet ministers have arrived here at the Jubilee House, but we are told by our sources that the meeting has started. But about 2 hours ago, we saw the Cocoa Board boss, Randy Abbey. He was here. We know that cabinet ministers, current cabinet ministers, we have 19 minus 2. Because of the unfortunate incident that happened on August 6th. But President Mahama, the Vice President, are all members of the cabinet, and it's expected that they are all going to be part of that meeting. Those who we know are also expected, to be in that meeting. The finance minister is also likely going to be in that meeting. The agric minister as well. Though we have not seen them, our sources tell us that they are going to be part of this meeting, all important meeting. We also told that there is the possibility of a press conference after the cabinet meeting. So many members of the press corps who are here are waiting to hear what the outcome of that particular meeting is going to be. But for those who we've been speaking to, they are quite optimistic. Some members of cabinet we've been speaking to are quite optimistic that this emergency meeting is going to come up with many far-reaching decisions that will go a long way to better the lot of cocoa farmers who have been complaining in the past days.
Well, thank you so much, Maxwell. Maxwell is our presidential correspondent. But you're wondering why that emergency meeting? Well, speaking on PM Express, president of the Licensed Cocoa Buyers Association, Samuel Adimedo, said the prolonged delays in reimbursements have left key actors in the cocoa chain heavily exposed financially.
Of the matter is that we owe the banks more than the farmers. Of course, the farmers are major principal actors. So obviously, once we owe farmers, and any of them, irrespective of their number, making noise, we need to address that. And we needed to set the record straight. Setting the record straight because our principal financiers, that's the banks that we have borrowed money from, we need to also indicate that we have not Nicodemously, let me put it this way, gone for the money from Cocoa Board, and then we have refused not to pay them. So,
but Cocoa Board also owes you money.
Yes, that is Cocoa Board is our principal.
How much you know?
To go specific to the figures, as you know, some have indicated 10 billion and
10 billion what?
Ghana cedis, and CE indicated that it's around 11 billion. Now, let me also use this opportunity to indicate that it is not only this current season. Some of our members, 2025-26, 2 years ago, have not been paid. And on this channel, I indicated that to the tune of $185 million. They've not been paid. We haven't come out to raise any issues. So the situation is more complex.
So Cocoa Board must find between 10 and 11 billion.
Correct, as the issues are.
Well, as you rightly heard, a lot of figures being mentioned in this cocoa reimbursement delay. Now, head of research, Isaac Kofi is in studio to break it down. I also need some clarification, Kofi. Lots of numbers, and not just numbers, there's some money.
Absolutely.
Okay.
In dollars, we have to put it that way. That if you look at the amount involved, already what we heard from the licensed buyers is that there's a legacy debt of almost 185 million that Cocoa Board is expected to pay the licensed buyers. But currently, we all know that the amounts involved in the Cocoa Board's inability to sell the available cocoa is around 10 billion to about 11 billion cedis. Let's try and understand why we are at this point. So this is what we know so far. So what we know is that this season, I'm referring to the 2025-2026 season, Cocoa Board has been able to sell 530,000 of their projected, cocoa production, What is left currently is about 50,000, metric tons that cocoa board is expected to sell. But why are they not able to sell it? It's simply because of this curve, MFR, that you see on the smart world. This curve tells you how cocoa prices have fallen from the highs of 11,141 to now 3,944. Just before I came to the studio, I was checking the futures market. That is also dipping. And I was checking the current prices, currently around 3,800. So spot market dropping, futures market is also dropping. What does this actually do to cocoa board? Let's try and understand. Before this season began, cocoa board prices cocoa around $5,372 dollars. Currently it's selling at $3,944. It means that currently, if cocoa board decides to sell that over 50,000 metric tons that it has in its inventory, it will have to sell at some 3,000, let's say 800, US dollars. It means that every ton that cocoa board actually sells from this stockpile, they will be making a loss of about 1,328. This is the figure that is preventing cocoa board from going forward to actually sell the cocoa. We understand that the trading houses are also not requesting for the supply because they believe that the current price of 5,272 is very expensive relative to the market price. What we also know is that in terms of the losses that cocoa board is facing currently, if they decide to sell everything, the amount involved in terms of the losses could range between $64 million to about $180 million. That is the kind of loss involved if cocoa board decides to trade using the current spot price. And so we're asking a very big question. There's also, some talks about the fact that this may have not actually included the fact that there was a stockpile in terms of what the rollover contract that cocoa board had. In fact, we have to put across that cocoa board actually included that in the evaluation of this 5,272. So MFR currently, the amount involved in terms of how much the LBCs and the farmers are owed is between about 10 to 11 billion, Ghana cedis. And we know we've done our calculation. If cocoa board decides to go ahead with this trade, they may be making a loss between 64 million, US dollars and some $180 million. That is the big figure, for you.
Thank you so much, Kofi. This is well enough to give the president some sleepless nights. We understand this crunch cabinet meeting. But away from that, the Electoral Commission is this afternoon locked up in a crunch inter-party advisory committee, IPAC meeting, with all political parties ahead of the Yawasu East by-election. The behind-closed-door meeting JoyNews is leading is, among other things, scheduled to discuss a roadmap to the March 3 polls. James Aveji has pitched camp at the Electoral Commission headquarters and joins us live. James, you said that the meeting has started. Fill us out on what has been happening in the last hour.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
James, if you heard me, fill us out on what's been happening in the last hour at the IPAC meeting.
Has been a crunch, the meeting between the Electoral Commission and the political parties. So far, we have seen a number of representatives of the parties going into that meeting. Personally, I saw the Director of Elections for the NDC, Mr. Madi Jibril, who went in there some few minutes after 11. The NPP is represented by their Director of Elections, Mr. Evans Nimako. The GCPP is also there, represented by Citizen Atudadzi as well. So those are the people I have personally verified that they are in that meeting. We are told there are other representatives of smaller parties in there. And now, between today and the 3rd of March, when this particular by-election will happen, there are a number of activities that will come up. Some by-elections have seen the EC's vetting of candidates, but it is not clear whether this would come up in this particular election. There would also be balloting ahead of the elections, as well as other modalities that will be will streamline the elections on March 3. And so this particular IPAC meeting, what we're learning is to streamline some of these discussions for all of the parties who are going into that meeting, that election, to agree on the way forward before the EC goes ahead with the preparations for the elections. We know that today the filing of nomination is currently ongoing at the EC's headquarters, the regional office of the Electoral Commission. And so here at the headquarters, the parties are held up in that particular IPAC meeting. We don't know how long it will take, but so far they spent over an hour. And so we're waiting on what exactly they would agree on in that meeting before the close of today, MFR.
James, stay with me. So you mentioned that some candidates are filing nominations, but some parties have already indicated their decision not to file, correct?
Exactly. So some smaller parties, including the People's National Party, PNP, have already indicated to me that they are not interested in the elections. The GCPP, which is also in that meeting, the Ghana Consolidated People's Party, have also indicated that they will not be going into the election. In fact, those we are picking the signal that they will be filing nomination today include the NDC, the NPP, an independent candidate, including a candidate from the Liberal People's LPG would also be filing. So those are the 4 candidates we are learning will be filing nomination. When I spoke to the General Secretary for the GCPP, Citizen Atudadzi, they said they do not want to go into the election because they see clearly that they don't have a chance in the election. And that is the call they are making on the other quote-unquote smaller parties not to waste money going into that election. Because according to Citizen, today the GCPP have realized that this election, Baba Jamal has some good, sympathy from the people going into the election. And so as far as they are concerned, he is a force to reckon with the other candidate. And so they are pulling out, urging the other political parties not to waste their money to contest in that election. Well,
thank you so much. James Aveji is our man at the Electoral Commission headquarters and will bring us everything that will happen after that IPAC meeting. But still on political parties, the National Democratic Congress is facing criticisms over its decision to clear Baba Jamal contest the Ayawasu East by-election, despite allegations of vote inducement during the party's recent parliamentary primary, with some describing the decision as endorsing an illegality. Baba Jamal, who was serving as Ghana's High Commissioner to Nigeria, was recalled by President Mahama after he admitted on camera to distributing items, including television sets, to party delegates during last Saturday's primary. Now, following a review of a report by a 3-member investigative committee, the NDC's Functional Executive Committee has now approved him as the party's candidate for the March 3 by-election. Michelle Latte has more in the following report.
The February 7 NDC primary saw Baba Jamal Mohammed Ahmed declared winner ahead of the March 3 by-election following the death of the sitting MP. The process was, however, marred by allegations of vote buying, triggering public outrage and calls from some NDC MPs for the election to be annulled. Baba Jamal was later recalled from his post as Ghana's High Commissioner to Nigeria. The party subsequently set up a 3-member committee led by Kofi Totobi Kwache. After 2 days of investigations, the committee submitted its report. Committee member Inusef Husseini says all candidates who contested the primary were interrogated.
It's a committee of FEC, and so we've submitted a report.
With the investigation concluded, the party then had to make a decision. After hours of deliberations, General Secretary of the NDC, Fifi Fiafikwete, revealed that all candidates admitted to giving items to delegates, describing them as motivation.
The long and short of the report was this, that inappropriate conduct was exhibited by virtually almost all the candidates. Even though you cannot establish, because the candidates were clear that what they did was in light of motivating of delegates. We believe that was inappropriate.
Despite the admissions, the party said it could not annul the results of the primary, contrary to the calls from some MPs in Parliament. The Functional Executive Committee therefore endorsed Baba Jamal as the party's candidate. Fifi Kwete explained the decision was influenced by the February 11 deadline for the submission of nominations.
Ideally, we should have an annulment of the primaries. However, the committee also acknowledged that there are real obstacles that make it difficult for us to do that. One, the party's constitution does not have a provision for an annulment of election. Two, we are time-bound because we need to be presenting a candidate by tomorrow to the Electoral Commission.
Joining me via Zoom now for a conversation on this developing story is a senior lecturer with the Political and History Department at KNUST, Professor Samuel Edujemfi. Thank you so much for joining us on the news today. So, the committee established allegations of vote buying during the primaries, but based on time constraint, they went ahead to clear Baba Jamal to contest. What do you make of this decision?
It's a difficult one, my sister. It's a very difficult one because if you look at what is happening today, you realize that the party has done its job. It has come out with its own findings. It shows clearly that the process that led to the outcome had a lot of challenges, necessitates annulment. Unfortunately, what we see is that the party cannot do that because the Electoral Commission itself is not interested in ensuring that our political parties conduct themselves well. If the Electoral Commission was interested in that, it would have used this as a test case to allow a party which is in government, which is in power, to right its own wrongs, for it to serve as an example for their counterparts, the NPP, and the other smaller parties. It seems to me what the Electoral Commission and the Commissioner is interested in, largely, is to see that they have that by-election. And once that is done, they will go back to relax or go back to sleep. And that is where I have a lot of worry. The fact is that the Electoral Commission should not only be interested on election day, counting of votes and declaring a winner, as it is known historically. It should be interested in the processes that lead to the D-Day of election and also the declaration of a winner. The processes require how individual contenders or contestants or competing parties conduct themselves. The processes that lead to giving birth to them as candidates are issues they ought to and must be interested in, i.e. questions about who finances them, how they have financed their campaign, and how, they came about that. I believe that all these things have the tendency or proclivity to shape how our political parties conduct themselves and also candidates also conduct themselves. Again, it is also critical to understand that the broader framing of the discussion on political party financing is critical. Years ago, a certain MP was found out or found culpable of dealing in cocaine. You remember the story. You realize that when political parties are financed by outsiders or businessmen or other actors, state or non-state actors, these people end up becoming puppet masters. You can imagine if a certain cabal, an oil cartel, or individuals whose sources of income or wealth is, very, very dangerous, end up financing political parties and individuals. They are those who be acting as puppet masters and invariably dictate the course of the state. And so when we sit aloof and are not interested as to how these politicians and also the political parties are financed, but we are only interested in who becomes an MP and who becomes a president, we are joking and we may end up messing up our democracy. Okay. The extent of corruption, the extent of monocracy is what is leading up to that. But research backs this. If I would have a point to that, few months ago, myself and a colleague, Sebastian Palu, did research in the Ashanti region, two constituencies. The Electoral College, the kingmakers Several of them are unemployed, cyclically or structurally unemployed.
Okay.
Several of them are doing a master's program or are now doing a degree. Several of them are farmers. They are doing different things, but they do not earn high income. Within this period, they expect to make this money.
Okay.
They give it different names. So the Electoral College itself must turn away from evil, because those who are paying and those who are taking are equally culpable.
Do I hear you say that there's quite a problem with the delegate system of voting? Are you supporting the calls for dismantling that?
I think that is where we need to be aiming at, because over the years, in my contemplation, I thought that growth in terms of having more literate society and having our democracy evolving in terms of, broader discussions on the discourses on our democracy will lead to the Electoral College conducting themselves well.
Okay.
But they have found means of rather sabotaging the process. And I think that maybe we need to begin to look at different pointers.
Prof,
that would serve a better cause for us.
Prof, thank you so much for your time on the news today. Yeah. And I'll take you to the Electoral Commission's regional office here in Accra, where my colleague Steve Mensah is on standby. The NDC has filed nomination for Baba Jamal. Stephen, confirm this to me and tell me what's happening at the office.
Well, MFR is official now. Baba Jamal joins the NPP's candidate and one other independent candidate for the March 3rd by-elections. We know from about 30 minutes ago, there were a number of NDC supporters from his constituency and some parts of Accra over here clad in white, and they came to support Baba Jamal and the other NDC executives as they came into this building, the NDC's regional office, to file nominations. We've been speaking to the regional coordinator or the director for the Electoral Commission, and she has attested to the fact that the Baba Jamal and the NPP and one other independent candidates have returned here to file nominations for Baba Jamal.
Well, thank you so much. Steve is bringing us updates from the Electoral Commission head office here in Accra, regional office here in Accra. And away from that, JoyNews, it's set to convene an extensive national dialogue on illegal mining on Thursday, February 12th, tomorrow, following the airing of its investigative documentary, A Tax for Galamsey. The documentary, which has sparked widespread public debate, uncovered troubling allegations of local government complicity surrounding Galamsey activities supervised by the District Chief Executive of Amensie Central. Emmanuel Obeng Ajiman is in the immediate aftermath of the expose. The president has been petitioned for a prompt and thorough investigation into the matters that have been raised. The JoyNews National Dialogue is expected to bring together key stakeholders to discuss the documentary's findings and whether MMDCs are the weakest link to the country's fight against Galamsey. Here are excerpts of that documentary.
At the bank, Benjamin himself took the 3,000 Ghana cedis and deposited it into an account labeled Main IGF. Every step was filmed, he receiving the cash, filling the deposit slip, and even the teller processing it. Benjamin made photocopies of the bank receipt and handed the copy to us. We have now successfully purchased registration. Proof that this was not an unofficial backdoor operation, but an organized, systematic revenue pipeline built into official financial structures. The deeper we went into the investigation, the more we uncover the extortion network. This time, we visited the NADMO office hours later. Here, we met Evans Amankwa, the municipal NADMO director, the same officer whose men we had earlier seen at Red's residence. He welcomed us without hesitation, fully aware of our mission because one of his men had told him about us. He inspected the receipt we had from the bank.
Well, you're out of here. You're in my reclamation. You say one line for most of my problems. Nobody knows. I'm the baby. I'm free grateful for machine bay area. I'm not for one catastrophe. I'm a cat. We also want some. The bad operations also. You're about to. You're by one country.
This direction was to confirm the amount to be taken. His officer, in another meeting room, requested that 2,000 cedis be paid to avert any ambush from NADMO officials.
My
I said, you want to perform mine and
next week. See, next week Monday nearby Nanka. You're director so you're banning ye. Say, name of budget towns and Nanka, or the towns of Nanka, and Nanka, and the way Danas, Nanka, Monday and Nanka.
After negotiating, he agreed to the 1,000 cedis. This was paid to the lead negotiator at the director's office. A sticker available to us is dated 18 August 2025 and marked number 097, which belongs to one of the miners.
Where date now was 18th August 2025.
How much the chair say?
3,000 per each.
So that national dialogue is happening tomorrow, and I'm just going to be bringing you the details. As you can see on the screen, JoyNews National Dialogue, a tax for Galamsey. We've been bringing you that hotline documentary. And the answer we're seeking to answer is whether or not MMDCs are the weakest link in fight against Galamsey. We'll try and find some answers to this big question. Of course, it will be airing here on JoyNews, as well Joy FM and Joy Online, all of our platforms. Don't forget that it's tomorrow, 12 February, at exactly at 6 p.m. You do not want to miss this conversation so that we help fight illegal mining in this country. Now, away from illegal mining, the rising number of coup d'etats in Africa is dominating discussions as ministers responsible for foreign affairs converge for the Executive Council meeting of the African Union. Now, West Africa has become the epic center of terrorism and also the region with the highest number of military changes in government. A couple of days ago, President Mahama convened a high-level consultative forum aimed at cutting the support of other West African leaders to tackle the situation. Also, at the continental level, Foreign Affairs Minister Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa has joined other foreign ministers at the Executive Council meeting, where concerns were equally raised about the rising number of unconstitutional changes in government. And head of JoyNews' Foreign Affairs Desk, Blessed Soga, has more from this meeting, which is underway in Ethiopia.
The continent is still grappling with incidents of unconstitutional change of government, which are undermining the normative foundations of our union. The evolving geopolitical landscape in which multilateralism and global cooperation are being eroded is also adversely affecting peace and security in our continent. Fierce competition for technological supremacy, control of critical mineral resources, and major logistics routes are becoming a dominant feature of international relations.
Chair, Ghana would also want to deplore the rising incidents of conflict and insecurity in our region. It is time for us to silence the guns, and it is time to commit to lasting peace. We are one people, and we should unite and pursue the development of our continent and the prosperity of our people. We have no scintilla of doubt that in the final analysis, unity and solidarity shall triumph over division.
You're watching News Today. Time now for business updates, and the elegant Michelle Ejikum is here to bring you some updates. Before Michelle brings you a business update, I'll take you back to the Electoral Commission headquarters, where IPAC meeting has just ended and James is on standby. James, give me an update.
Is ready. We filed our candidates, Baba Ali Yusuf, this morning. Tomorrow, we are going to the regional office to participate in the ballot. But for IPAC meeting today, other discussions had to do with EC to conduct a review of the 2024 presidential and parliamentary election. That has not been done. And so discussion with the EC has admitted that it's an important exercise that needs to be done. EC also intend introducing what we call results taken electronically at voting centers. And so they are going to pilot this exercise at the Ayawaso East by-election. And the New Patriotic Party is in full support. A situation where results get destroyed by hoodlums will be a thing of the past. And so we will support the EC to file a new CI to give a legal backing to an arrangement where results will be collected electronically to collaborate with the manual transmission of election results. I think by and large, there's understanding among parties that is a nice way to go. And this being the first IPAC meeting, the New Patriotic Party took the opportunity to extend appreciation to the Electoral Commission and the Ghana Police Service for the peaceful conduct of our internal presidential elections. And so for us, it's been a very fruitful meeting.
When you say review the 2024 election, what exactly are you talking about?
I mean, we all saw it. EC has the mandate to conduct this exercise, and it's a convention that after every major elections, general election, the EC with other stakeholders will conduct a review of the elections. We saw how the elections were conducted, how results were transmitted, collation, how it was done, some security lapses, EC's own challenges in some of the voting centers, the use of the BVDs and all that. So these are things we want to look at. And going forward, what would be the best way for an election to be conducted in a manner that is peaceful, that is not too expensive, and that will ensure that the integrity of Ghana's multi-party democracy will also be uplifted. So we are waiting to have this done.
But any indication on when it will be done?
We're waiting for EC to give us the timelines.
Are you confident of winning Ayawaso East?
The New Patriotic Party is going to win Ayawaso East by-election with our candidate Baba Ali Yusuf. And we are all here and we say it that it's a constituency who will win this time around. And so I'm putting it to you. Be there in your numbers, but let's also ensure that the EC will conduct peaceful and fair elections. We will call on all stakeholders, especially the police, to ensure that there's peace in this process. We don't want to see what happened in Equatia.
What details have been given to you with respect to security arrangements?
Well, the EC said that all security issues is in the bosom of the police service.
But we know that the police was represented in this IPAC meeting. Did they give any details?
The police will not speak on issues at IPAC meeting, but we can count on police. I mean, New Patriotic Party, when we had our internal elections, the police did an excellent professional job for us. They know we can count on them. But this is a by-election, and we don't want what we saw in Akwatia to replicate itself in Ayawaso East.
Ballot printing and all the other plans, did you have any comments?
The EC arrangement is that parties will be accredited to be at the printing house that will be selected, and that selection is yet to be made. And so when it is done, New Patriotic Party will be represented in this printing house.
Mr. Nimaku, the concern that has been boiling is about the vote buying and which are allegations in the last two primaries that has happened. Did the EC express any reservation about some of these things? Have they sent you any message to, especially you, the political parties in this?
Well, I mean, you realize that in NDC's primaries, I mean, their own people are talking between Baba Jama and the other candidates, and so that is up to the NDC. But you, the media, should check. The political party act is clear on some of these things, and you have to look at them and question them. And I think that if it had been MPP, the media will all be on us. And so ask the NDC. The issue that came from their majority caucus and the position of the party, I mean, these are things we should interrogate. So let's find out from the NDC.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
And that's Mr. Evans Nimaku, the Director of Elections for the NPP.
The NDC Let's speak to your Deputy Director of Elections.
I'm going to speak on behalf of my Director of Elections, Madi. Yes. We've attended the IPAC meeting, as usual, for the Ayawasu East by-election. And I can assure you, we've agreed to all their processes they have laid out in terms of the printing the ballot papers and then deployment of party agents. We've agreed that we are going to deploy 2 party agents at a time for each of the polling stations. Ideally, it's supposed to be 1-1 because it's a parliamentary election, but because it's just a restricted parliamentary election, they've given us that opportunity that we'll deploy 2 party agents for each of the polling stations. We are ready. We have filed our candidate today. As we speak now, we have officially filed. We are going to win. Our aim is to increase the margin. I mean, that is what we are going in. It's not about winning. It's about increasing the margin. We got the last time we were 22,000 plus. We are expecting to go further, at least to about 25,000 more, because of the good works of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and what the party is doing for the good people of Ayawaso and all that. So we are expecting a very massive win. We're thinking our opponents will just chicken out. I mean, naturally, because it's not a place for them to come and waste anybody's time. But since they are coming, let them come. We'll give them the heaviest defeats in their life as a political party, MPP. So we are ready for it, and we are sure we are going to win.
But some say you have cleared your candidates. They say you are approving of vote buying in election by clearing Baba Jamal. How would you respond to such assertions?
Yesterday, the General Secretary of our party articulated our position, the FEC position on this matter. And I don't want to recap of what happened. We all heard it loud and clear. The media were there, your reporters were there. They listened to the General Secretary of our party. I think I still stand by that position.
You shot yourself in the foot by demonstrating to all Ghanaians that you were going to do something exceptional with investigations as far as this matter is concerned, only to turn around and play with, clearing him to go ahead with the elections.
I think the General Secretary made it very clear. The 3 core issues on which we allowed Baba Jamal to contest this election. And it was very clear. So I don't know why you want us to repeat it again. It was very clear. You don't solve an illegality with an illegality. We are a law-abiding political party run by a constitution and regulations. The Director of Elections is here. He ran the process. And anytime he's going to run an election, he makes sure that he goes by the dictates of the regulations. He can't go outside the regulations. The party has a constitution. And so if we come out and we've seen that we have been magnanimous and be very clear in our mind about the report, compare that one to our opponents who have institutionalized this canker in their party. You saw it. You were reporting it live on 31st January. Have they issued even a one-line statement to condemn what has happened? Have they put up a committee? You should be congratulating NDC.
Did the EC express any reservation about some of these things? Are they worried?
The EC did not see anything. They conducted the election. It went on peacefully. The process was conducive. What happened did not happen at the polling centers and the centers of the voting. So the EC went ahead and declared the results. They don't have any problem with that.
Did you agree on what specific dates they will be doing the printing of balloting among candidates and all of that?
We agreed to the timetable they were giving us anytime soon. They're asking us to bring our agents, the printing agents for that.
When will this happen?
Well, it will happen anytime soon. As soon as the green line is given, we'll send our agents to the centers to monitor the printing of the ballot paper. I can assure you we are good to go. We are ready. And we can assure you as a political party, very law-abiding political party, the NDC, we will make sure that we will not dabble in any illegality whatsoever.
But by this...
So that's the Deputy Director of Elections for the NDC there, Mr. Tanko Computer there, speaking to us about the issues that have been agreed upon by the parties in this particular meeting. Let's speak briefly with the General Secretary for the GCPP, Citizen Atu Dadzi. You spoke to me earlier before you went into this particular meeting, indicating what's your own assessment of what has happened. We are told that there's been an agreement on the timetable schedules for this. What's your own impression of what has happened?
I think we were expecting the discussions that happened at IPAC. The Electoral Commission has given us the roadmap in terms of printing. They said their procurement section is dealing with which particular printing house will do the printing of the ballots and the declaration forms. They informed us about it, that when the printing house is selected, parties will be involved in supervising what is going to go on. One of the key things that I remember I raised was that there were things that we learned from Akwatia by-election, which included identifying agents. You know, normally we give agent tags, and it is a general tag that you are an agent. But what we realized that when you actually give a particular name to the agent, it helps.
The blanket, yes, party agent, yes, kind of.
Because if anybody can just swap around, but if you know that this is Atudazi and it's been tagged, if anything happens, you can hold Atudazi to it.
EC, you parties have agreed that henceforth the name of the agent should be on the card.
Yes, I drum home that point, because that worked in Akwatia, and they said that yes, they are going to look at it and do it. I don't know whether they are going to, but they agree in principle that yes, I think it also helps, so they are going to do that. We also talked about the presence of the security, okay, which also helped in Akwatia. I raised issues of cost, but.
And that's right. Let's get into our business stories. I am Michelle Ejikum. Now, the Bank of Ghana says growing pension fund assets could play a major role in increasing local ownership in the banking sector. Now, Governor Dr. Johnson Isiama says pension funds, now valued at over 100 billion cedis, represent a strong pool of long-term capital that can support listed banks. He made the remarks at the inaugural meeting of the steering and technical committees of the bank commercial bank listing project.
Macroeconomic stability, as you are aware, has improved. Confidence is returning, and domestic long-term capital is growing rapidly. Pension fund assets, for example, I'm told it now exceeds 100 billion, making them one of the largest pools of investable capital in Ghana's economy. At the same time, the role of markets in the financial system is becoming more pronounced. Several of our listed banks already have pension funds that are holding between 15 and 35% of their equity, demonstrating that domestic institutional investors are willing and able to anchor bank ownership when the right frameworks are indeed in place. So listing banks, therefore, is not about transactions for their own sake. It is about transparency. It is about market discipline. And it's about deliberately connecting long-term domestic savings to the banking system in such a way that supports sustainable growth. This project also recognizes an important reality that Ghana's banking sector is not homogeneous. While a number of banks are already listed, many remain wholly or predominantly owned by foreign parent groups.
Well, that'll be all for business right here on Joy News today. I am Michelle Ejikum, the small business news when you log on to myjoyonline.com. MFR.
Thank you so much, Michelle. I think that's very soon we'll be telling people what we hear in our ears. But thank you so much for watching the news. I'm MFR Kosiadeti. Please do log on to myjoyonline.com for more news. Michelle.